Spade Kolie. Spade Kolie was a pioneer of Western swing, a genre that fused country music with big band jazz. His popularity in the 1940s was unmatched, with sold-out performances and a widely watched television show that made him a familiar name. However, behind the well-crafted cowboy persona was a man whose jealousy and temper would lead to one of the most shocking crimes in Hollywood history. Kolie's wife, Ella May, had allegedly planned to leave him, a decision that sent the musician into a fit of rage. In an uncontrollable outburst, he committed an act of violence that deeply disturbed those involved in the case. What many don't realize is that their teenage daughter was present during the incident and was later forced to testify against him in court. Kolie was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. Yet, in a strange turn of events, he was granted parole after serving less than a decade. Before his release, he performed at a benefit concert, where he suffered a fatal heart attack backstage. His story is a haunting reminder of how fame can sometimes conceal the darkest human impulses. The next figure, however, presents a different kind of tragedy, one born not of fury, but of a deadly confrontation. Paul Kelly. Paul Kelly was the embodiment of the classic leading man in the 1920s and 1930s, known for his rugged charm and strong screen presence. His career took an unexpected and dark turn when he found himself entangled in a fatal love triangle. Kelly was romantically linked to actress Dorothy McKay, who was married to fellow actor Ray Raymond. Tensions between the two men escalated until one fateful evening when a physical altercation resulted in Raymond's injuries, which tragically led to his passing. Kelly was subsequently charged with manslaughter. What many don't know is that he served 2 years in San Quentin prison, a sentence that could have permanently ended his career. However, after his release, he managed to make an astonishing comeback in Hollywood, even winning a Tony Award years later. In a twist that shocked many, Kelly eventually married Dorothy McKay, the widow of the man he was convicted of killing. Their union was a scandal in itself, but it also highlighted the strange and surreal nature of Hollywood's golden age. The next story delves into the life of a starlet, whose downfall was not the result of violence, but rather the darker temptations of fame. Barbara Payton. Barbara Payton was the definition of Hollywood glamour in the late 1940s and early 1950s. With her striking beauty and undeniable talent, she seemed destined for stardom. However, her personal choices and highly publicized scandals led her down a tragic path. Payton's downfall was rooted in her tumultuous relationships, the most infamous being a love triangle with actors Franchot Tone and Tom Neal. Their rivalry erupted into a violent altercation that shocked the industry. However, her career was already on shaky ground due to erratic behavior and struggles with substance use. By the mid-1950s, Payton was convicted of writing fraudulent checks, a desperate act that underscored her financial troubles. Her legal issues continued, with arrests for public intoxication and disorderly conduct, further damaging her already tarnished reputation. By the end of her life, she was living in poverty, a tragic contrast to the glamorous starlet she had once been. Her story serves as a cautionary tale of how fame can amplify personal struggles, leaving behind a legacy marked by both brilliance and heartbreak. The next name carries the weight of a legendary family, but tells a tale of personal turmoil and rebellion. John Drew Barrymore. John Drew Barrymore was born into Hollywood royalty as the son of the iconic actor John Barrymore, making him part of an acting dynasty. With his striking features and clear talent, he seemed poised to carry on the family's legacy. However, his career and personal life were overshadowed by rebellion and self-destruction. Barrymore's acting journey began with promise in the 1950s, but his struggles with the law and personal demons quickly took center stage. He faced multiple arrests for public intoxication and reckless driving, painting a picture of a troubled man unable to escape his vices. What many don't realize is that the weight of living up to his family's name only intensified his struggles. His legal troubles worsened when he was convicted of failing to pay child support, which led to a jail sentence. Though he continued to act sporadically, he never reached the heights of his father's stardom. His story is a somber reminder of unfulfilled potential, illustrating how even the brightest legacies can be overshadowed by personal turmoil. The next figure, however, faced allegations far more scandalous, making his story one of Hollywood's most controversial. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn, the charismatic star of swashbuckling adventures like The Adventures of Robin Hood, was the epitome of Hollywood charm in the 1930s and 1940s. His devil-may-care attitude and undeniable screen presence made him a fan favorite. Yet, his off-screen life was just as eventful and far more controversial. In the early 1940s, Flynn's reputation took a severe hit when he was accused of misconduct involving 2 underage girls. The trial, which began in 1943, became one of the most sensational legal battles in Hollywood history. His defense argued that the accusations were fabricated, and Flynn maintained his innocence throughout. What many don't realize is that Flynn's trial led to the popularization of the phrase "in like Flynn," referencing his perceived ability to escape unscathed from scandal. Though he was ultimately acquitted, the accusations left a lasting mark on his public image. Despite this, his career continued to thrive, and he remained one of Hollywood's top stars until his untimely death in the late 1950s. His story is a stark example of the dual nature of fame, where charm and talent can coexist with controversy and scandal. The next figure, however, faced a scandal that didn't just damage his reputation, it almost destroyed his career entirely. Robert Mitchum. Robert Mitchum, known for his intense performances in films like Out of the Past and The Night of the Hunter, was one of Hollywood's most enigmatic leading men. His deep voice, rugged looks, and rebellious aura made him a favorite among audiences. However, his off-screen persona was just as captivating as the roles he played. In 1948, Mitchum was arrested during a police raid for marijuana possession, one of Hollywood's first high-profile drug scandals. At the time, such an incident could have ended a career, as public opinion was far less forgiving. What many don't know is that Mitchum's arrest only seemed to enhance his bad boy image, making him even more appealing to audiences. He served 60 days in jail, but rather than destroy his career, the scandal became part of his mystique. Mitchum himself often joked about the incident, displaying a level of indifference that only added to his legend. He went on to have a career spanning decades, cementing his status as one of Hollywood's most enduring stars. The next name on this list, however, was not merely caught up in a scandal. He was at the center of an act of violence that left Hollywood reeling. Walter Wanger. Walter Wanger, the esteemed producer behind films like Stagecoach and Cleopatra, was a risk-taker in Hollywood. Yet, in 1951, his personal life overshadowed his cinematic achievements when he became involved in one of the industry's most infamous scandals. Wanger grew suspicious of his wife, actress Joan Bennett, and her agent, Jennings Lang. Believing that Lang was interfering in his marriage, Wanger confronted him in a parking lot, and in a moment of blind fury, he shot Lang. What many don't realize is that Wanger's legal team argued that he acted in a state of temporary insanity, an argument that helped him avoid a lengthy prison sentence. Instead, he served just 4 months in jail, a surprisingly short punishment for such a high-profile case. However, the incident left an irreversible stain on his career. While he continued to work in Hollywood, his reputation never fully recovered. The shooting also had a ripple effect on Joan Bennett's career, as the public's fascination with the case overshadowed her talent. Wanger's story is a clear example of how personal and professional lives can collide in Hollywood, often with devastating consequences. The next figure on this list, however, was no mere bystander in their scandal. They were directly linked to a shocking crime. Mabel Normand. Mabel Normand was one of the brightest stars of the silent film era, a comedic powerhouse who shared the screen with legends like Charlie Chaplin and Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle. But despite her immense talent, her career was overshadowed by a series of scandals that eroded her once sterling reputation. In 1922, Normand's name was linked to the murder of director William Desmond Taylor, a case that remains unsolved to this day. Though she was never formally charged, her close relationship with Taylor and her presence at his home shortly before his death made her a key figure in the investigation. What many don't realize is that this wasn't the only controversy surrounding Normand. In 1924, her chauffeur was involved in a violent altercation that resulted in the death of a wealthy oil broker. Though Normand herself was not directly responsible, the incident further damaged her reputation. The press painted her as a magnet for chaos and scandal, leading to a steep decline in her career. By the late 1920s, she had largely stepped away from the spotlight, her health deteriorating due to tuberculosis. Her story is a tragic example of how Hollywood can turn its back on a star once controversy taints their name. The next figure, however, wasn't just linked to a crime. They were accused of committing one of the most shocking acts in Hollywood history. Robert Blake. Robert Blake, best known for his role in the 1970s television series Baretta, was a child star who grew up in the limelight. His acting career spanned decades, with standout performances in films like In Cold Blood. But in 2001, his life took a dark and unexpected turn when he was accused of being involved in the murder of his wife, Bonnie Lee Backley. The case became a media sensation, with Blake adamantly claiming innocence and asserting that Backley had been targeted by someone else. What many don't know is that Blake's defense team pointed to Backley's past, marked by a history of cons and scams, as evidence that she had other enemies who could have been responsible for her death. The trial, which began in 2004, was one of the most gripping Hollywood courtroom dramas in recent history. Blake was ultimately acquitted of the criminal charges, but his career and reputation were left in ruins. In a separate civil trial, however, he was found liable for Backley's death and ordered to pay millions in damages. Blake's story is a chilling reminder of how fame and fortune can unravel in the face of scandal. The next figure on this list, though known for his comedic genius, was surrounded by a mystery that remains unsolved to this day. Ted Healy. Ted Healy was a man of contradictions, a brilliant comedian whose life was far from laughter-filled. As the mastermind behind the original Three Stooges, Healy became a household name, entertaining audiences across the country. But behind the scenes, his life was marked by turbulence and controversy. Few people know that Healy's death in the late 1930s remains one of Hollywood's biggest mysteries. Officially, it was attributed to complications from alcoholism, but whispers of foul play have persisted for decades. On the night of his death, Healy was reportedly involved in a physical confrontation at a nightclub, with speculation linking several high-profile figures to the altercation, including a young actor who would later become a Hollywood legend. Even more unsettling is Healy's strained relationship with the Three Stooges. While their on-screen camaraderie delighted audiences, behind the scenes, Healy was known for his temper and alleged mistreatment of the group, leading to their eventual split. Some accounts suggest that his erratic behavior was fueled by substance abuse, an all too common but often hidden reality of Hollywood's golden age. His sudden and mysterious death remains a subject of speculation, casting a long shadow over his legacy. And yet, his story is just one thread in the intricate tapestry of Hollywood's past, a world where glamour often concealed far darker realities.